It's All Oldies Radio and a special In Vision interview with the man of the 1986 hit. He's waving there. This is Owen Paul. Hello, Owen.
How are you doing, Rob?
I'm doing fine. It sounded like the Eurovision. Are you there, Owen? You're there.
Yes, yeah. and I got 0 points as well.
Hey! So just going back before we start the interview there, what was your idea? Did you watch the Eurovision?
I didn't see all of it. I was strangely doing a gig after all this time. Yeah, it was the first gig in about 14 months. Albeit it was in the garden, fair days, it was still a gig. And I was travelling back, so I've always watched Eurovision. And actually, not a lot of people know it. I produced a record that was in Eurovision once.
Here is a non-Googleable question then. What was the record that you produced?
Lindsey Dracus.
And which year was that then, Lindsey Dracus?
Oh, it must be 2000, 2001.
Did that get any points?
It did okay, actually. I mean, not as bad as James. It was. I think it was 16th, something like that. In the end.
16
it wasn't
points.
Too bad. Anyway, I did watch Saturdays when I finally got back home because it was on so late, and obviously the voting takes hours.
I know.
So I didn't think I was going to catch it, but I did. And then I saw the voting thing with the judges first. I was trying not to laugh, but classic. It was just a classic scenario that you could see coming from a way off, you know.
Yeah, definitely.
And then, but the public vote surprised me.
I thought it was a little bit cruel at the end. I think the public votes are cruel, although they had to come through. But I just thought it was a little bit cruel.
I thought it was very strange, and I'm sure. I know the guys in Italy are probably very proud of it and it'll do very well for them, but I don't see it selling it that much. You know what I mean? And I'm sure that's true of other acts that were in there. I mean, I liked the Iceland one. I thought that was good. And I thought Malta was quite good as well. But something like Russia or Germany, they were wildly
Absolutely. I love the costume of the Finland entry as well. I love the costume.
Oh, listen, the costumes and the whole staging was incredible. There's no getting away from that.
Yeah.
You know, if that's your bag, if you know, as such. But, you know, it's not a competition I would go in as a performer, that's for sure.
No, definitely. So, Owen Paul, 35 years. I can't believe that. 1986.
Yeah, isn't it incredible? I mean, it's like 35 years. It's like somebody actually told me that. I didn't know. Because I wasn't thinking of doing anything. And then my manager said, you know, it's 35 years next year. We should get a new version together. You know, that'd be something rather than just re-release the old version and, you know, and see what happens. Why don't we do a brand new version? And then because I've been making this last year and a half with lockdown, I've been recording a country folk album this last year because obviously we have got no live gigs. There's no 80s festivals to do, or I mean, it might not be for the foreseeable. It meant I have a lot of time to record stuff that I, didn't do before. So, album got started last March. Released a few singles, have done very well for us already, and the album's coming out. So we decided to make The Favourite Waste of Time in a country folk style. My daughter calls it hillbilly music, which I took as a compliment, but I don't think she meant it as a compliment.
Right.
but basically, so it's in a country style, and there's a guy called Phil Cunningham and a guy called John McCusker, who are two Scottish folk legends playing fiddles and accordions and whatever. So we made that the main feature from the piece, and then we kind of jammed it in a country style, and it is hillbilly music. But I love it. I absolutely love it.
Lovely. And you can stream that now, can't you?
You can. It came out last week. So it's now on iTunes, Amazon, Spotify. Download it from the owenpaul.com if you want, and everywhere else. Where you'd expect it.
We'll play it a little bit later on. I just wanted to ask you then, because you sort of, after My Favourite Waste of Time, you sort of quit the music business, didn't you?
I did. I didn't stop. What I did do is I stopped performing and I stopped releasing records. I got into such a fight with my record company because I made such a big, massive pop record in 1986 and I was really a rock act.
Right.
Prior to that moment. And they didn't force me to make that record. That was my idea, right? But I remember when we finished it in the studio, I thought, oh my God, this is going to be huge. We all thought it was going to be huge. But then I thought, oh, this could be a problem for me. They might want 15 versions of that
Yeah.
rather than the stuff I've got, rather than the stuff I had ready for the album. And it turned out I was right. And every song I brought in, they were like, no, too many loud guitars trashing about, turn that down, soften that. And I was like, I can't deal with that.
Yeah.
And then I said, you guys signed me as a rock act before Favourite Waste of Time. What are you doing? I said, why don't you get Bros to do a record like that, or whatever you were, or the other, or whatever artists they had in the label at the time. Anyway, it's one of those things. They sign you on a contract, so they're legally obliged to release your records, right? But that doesn't mean they end up in shops.
All right.
So I released another record after Favourite Waste of Time that I remember thinking, it was out for about 3 or 4 weeks and nothing was happening. I wasn't, it was on radio and stuff. That was going great. But there was no chart position. I wasn't even in the top 75, right? And then so I said to my mum, can you ask anyone in the family, because I was living in London at this point. My mum's in Glasgow, right? So I'd say, can you go ask your people, because I've not seen it in a store yet. So I said, can you go and ask your friends to go and see if they can buy it somewhere? Couldn't get it anywhere. I asked people in Aberdeen, couldn't get it anywhere. People in Leeds couldn't get it anywhere. They just wanted rid of it, the record company. They just didn't put it in the shops. How about that?
So how long was you
It's the same
tied
thing.
in? I was going to say, how long was you tied in then? How long was you tied in with the record label? Was that the album was released? Would there be other albums like along the line you had to do?
Yeah, I mean, basically, my contract was ridiculous. It was something like 8 albums over 5 years or something. But basically what happens then is that after I realized that they weren't going to promote my stuff or advertise it or sell it, and they were just going to do the sort of legal obligation, so to speak, I thought, you know what? He said to me, so you got demos for the new album? I said, no, I've got writer's block. Right? So they then, in their wisdom, they said, okay, why don't you go, we'll send you to some lovely places and see if you can get inspiration. So they sent me to the Bahamas. This is true, by the way.
Wow.
This is completely true. Yeah, so sent me to the Bahamas, sent me to St. Lucia, sent me to Wales, which is gorgeous.
Yeah.
I spent weeks on end sitting doing nothing. And then, I come back from those events and the record company goes, so what have we got? And I go, nothing. I haven't got a single song. I'm sorry, lads. So then they sue me for breach of contract. Wow. I counter sue them for not selling my product. It's a bit like, the George Michael court case.
I was going to bring that George Michael case up because it was the same record label, wasn't it?
How surprising is that?
Yeah.
And they did the same. They did the very same thing to him. He released Faith, the biggest album in the world at its time, massive in America, #1 everywhere. And then he brought in his new record called Listen Without Prejudice. The record company didn't like it, and they wouldn't promote it. Now, if they're going to treat George like that, the biggest artist in the world at that time,
yeah, definitely,
they could throw me away. They could throw me under a bus, which is what they wanted to do. So I just said I haven't got it. They sued me. I sued them. We came to an agreement, and they said, I said, look, I just won't make records anymore. And they said, well, you won't with that name, because they owned the rights to my name at that point, which is even stranger. So I didn't. So I went behind the scenes. I worked as an arranger and a producer. I didn't use my own name. I used my real name, not the Owen Paul name.
Yeah.
That was the only way around it. I then ran a theatre in the West End, which was very successful. So I was never gone from the music business as such. I was just behind the scenes all the time, as an arranger. I loved it. I still do love that part of my job. So it was no great loss to me not to be on TV or in magazines and being hounded down the street by screaming teenagers.
So when you left Sony, then you weren't talking like gardening leave? You couldn't do anything for 4 years, 5 years, or anything like that. You couldn't record. 4 years.
4
years.
4 years. Yeah.
And after that 4
yeah, I'm going to make you laugh, Rob. You were going to say, and after that 4 years, did you do it right away in the 5th? No, yeah. I waited 20 years.
20 years.
Yeah, 20 years.
Because he was doing things. You mentioned the theatre there. He did the
Taboo.
Taboo, the Boy George musical, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was massive for us. I mean, basically what happened was me and my business partner, we had a an old church hall in Leicester Square in central London, and it was underneath a church called Notre Dame. And we used to run a ballroom dancing club there. Dance things, right? Like salsas and jives and rumbas and waltzes and that sort of thing. It was lovely thing.
Yeah.
Lovely. It was like, and the good thing about it when you have like tea dance type thing, it's for elderly people mainly that would maybe, and a lot of them obviously have lost their partners or widows or widowers, and then they get to meet new people and they get to dance together and socialize. It was fantastic to be involved in that. But then one random day, I can't even remember the year, but we had like security cameras at the top of the stairs while we were downstairs in the basement, and I could see in the camera a guy that looks amazingly like Boy George to me. And I'm thinking, what? So I'm like, wow, he's coming to dance. Incredible, right? So he sticks his head in the door. He says, hello, is this a venue thing? I said, well, it's a church hall. Right? And I'd met George before, but he had no idea who I was. I knew clearly that it was him.
Yeah.
Unmistakably him. So he says, can I have a look around? So I was like, oh, you don't want to dance? He went, no. He said, I just want to have to look around the building. He said, I've got a brand new musical. He said, I want to put it in I don't want to put it in a Lloyd Webber theatre or a Cameron McIntosh theatre. I want to put it in a strange place because I want the audience to be in the show, in the middle of it, right? So I was like, fine. So I showed him around the building. He was like, okay, would you be interested in putting this on? I said, yeah. I said, what does it mean? He said, well, he said, we'll refurbish the building because it was really an old church hall, like proper old, right? He said, we'll put in showers for the actors, rebuild the whole back area, dressing rooms and all the stuff. We'll put on flooring. We'll do theatre seating, lighting rigs, sound, PA systems, the lot. And I said, lovely. He said, and then you give us a reasonable deal on the rent per week. And I was like, okay. I said, but George, what happens if the show stops after one night? That happens. Some shows don't work. Yeah. I said, or in a week or a month even at best, right? He said, listen, speak to my business partners, the guys that are funding it all. He said, you'll come to the arrangement. He said, but in my view, take it from me right now. If that happens, you keep the whole thing. You keep the seating, the lighting, the rig, everything. All the fixtures, fittings, the lot. Spotlights, sound systems, radio mics, you name it, they were going to put it in. Yep. So I said, I'll take that deal. Anyway, yes, of course. So anyway, needn't have worried. The show started at whatever time. First night, sold out. Second night, sold out. Third night, sold out. Fourth night, sold out. For 3.5 years, sold out every night.
Wow.
Every night.
So you didn't get to keep the equipment then?
Yeah, we did.
Oh, did you?
Basically what happened, yeah, we did. Basically what happened then, right? And he was true to his word. The show got taken to Broadway. The owners who bought the rights to put it in Broadway said they wanted it taken off in London to make it a thing in Broadway. And they left our building and left everything with us.
Wow.
And then we had another five shows or more with all the gear.
And in this time then, was the tea dances, are they all finished? Are they all gone by then? Or
no, we had to put them somewhere else.
Yeah.
And there was another building not far from us in Leicester Square, and we hired that. And then we were running that at the same time as running a theatre. So we were doing running over, playing a bit of Matt Monroe, then running back, selling tickets, ushering people in, and all that, all at the same time. It was chaos. It was great.
Wow. And what was this thing with your business partner? You had something to do with the Hard Rock Cafe as well, didn't you?
Yeah. Well, my best friend Charles is from a very wealthy family, and I've known Charles for 30 years, something like that. Probably more actually, because I met him before Favourite List of Time, so it's maybe more than 35 years. And we've been best friends for all that time. And he and his father bought the rights to the Hard Rock Cafe and Planet Hollywood. And I got used as a consultancy type thing where, say for example, you're opening the Hard Rock Cafe in Buenos Aires, right?
Yeah.
Let's say in Argentina. He'd say to me, right on, your job is to get acts that will play the opening night. Okay,
Yeah.
So I then get and talk them into it. Sheryl Crow, say, right, or UB40 played. James Brown did one for me, which was amazing.
Wow.
So that was basically my position there. I wasn't hired like on a weekly basis. It was a consultant too, and then I'd find out how to get to, because I knew somebody who knew somebody, and then we'd book the act, and then I'd organise that night, and then Charles would be in charge of the whole event, but make sure that act arrived on time, did the job, otherwise they don't get the money and all that stuff. So that was my position with them.
And was that for all the Hard Rock cafes, or just like the ones, say, for when a new opening up?
It was not the UK ones at all, and it was not Europe. It was all South America.
Right. Okay. So you have been busy then since 1986, haven't you?
oh yeah. And I went on tour. I went on tour with Mike and the Mechanics. I was one of them.
Was Mike? I was going to say, was you the front lead singer then of Mike and the Mechanics at that time?
No. Basically, what happened was I'm recording in the studio in Watford, and the guy that's producing my record is a guy called Peter Van Hook, who was in the original Mike and the Mechanics in the early years.
Yeah.
And just randomly, Mike Rutherford came to visit him, not me, right? But he walked past the studio after they had lunch, and he could hear my tracks blaring out while we were mixing them, right? So he came in, and Mike's very posh, right? And he's like, "Dear boy, whose song is this?" And I say, "That's mine." He's like, "Very nice, very nice, very nice." And who arranged all the backing vocals and all that lovely singing stuff? And I said, "I did that." I was like, "All right." He said, "Would you be interested in doing the new Mike and the Mechanics album?" And I was like, "Yeah." So he's.
Let me think for a second.
And obviously, in the modern world now, right, with the internet and Zoom and sending files all over the world, you can get players to play on your tracks, right? At that time, it was revolutionary. Basically, Mike said to me, "We make the records, me and Paul Carrick. We write the song. We then send you the basic track. You put as many voices on it as you want. Then you send it all back to us. Then we choose what we want or we don't want." And he said, "By the way, don't get upset if we don't use anything." I went, fine. So anyway, they used quite a lot of it. The album went on to great success. It was an album called Rewired, and it was basically the comeback of Mike and the Mechanics.
Yeah.
So then some months passed after its success, and the same thing happens. Mike phones up again, and he goes, "Dear boy," back to being Mike Rutherford. dear boy. I'm like, "Mike, yeah, how you feel?" I'm like regular Joe Schmo, common guy, right?
Yeah,
and he's like, "Dear boy." And he said, very, very, very happy with the success of Rewired. Would you be interested in going on tour with us as one of the Mike and the Mechanics? And we're going to go on tour with Phil Collins. I was like, "Mike, I am packing my bags, sir, right now." So we went from that. So I have now not performed in public for 20 years or more.
Wow.
And now I'm at the Bernabeu Stadium in front of 95,000 people with two. I basically hired my brother as one singer and another girl as another singer. I'm in the middle, organising them, making sure it all works, and putting the songs. And now I'm singing with Paul Carrick and Mike Rutherford and Jamie Moses, who's a legend of guitar, Gary Wallace, who's Pink Floyd's drummer, and more. And now we're playing to 95,000 people each night.
Wow.
I am back with a bang.
Definitely. I was great friends with Paul Young, who was one of the original singers in Mike and the Mechanics. Sadly, no longer with us, but what a top bloke. What a top bloke.
Cracking singer as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. So you have been...
Actually, and a great frontman.
You are a great frontman. So that was on the...
he is.
Oh, he is a great... Yeah, and he's very sort of... he reminds me a little bit of Mick Jagger, or he did remind me of Mick Jagger.
Very much.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely sadly missed.
Indeed.
So you have been busy. It's the 35th anniversary. So you're now back definitely in the music business. That's it now, isn't it? All the way, music business. You're staying in it. You're releasing material. And I was going to ask you what you've been doing in lockdown, but clearly you've been busy since lockdown. And the 35th anniversary.
We've virtually recorded a whole album in lockdown. Brand new material, country, folk style. and then we've incorporated the brand new version of Favourite Waste of Time 35th anniversary in the style of where I'm at right now.
Brilliant. Could I ask you a personal question as well? You may not want to answer it, but you know when you recorded,
okay.
My Favourite Waste of Time, it's included now on quite a lot of the 80s compilations. Do you still get, because you wasn't the writer of My Favourite Waste of Time, was you?
Well, that's a controversial subject, so let's not go there.
Okay.
But I will say this. Let's just say that every quarter of a year, because you get royalties paid like every 3 months, my children are very happy with me.
Yeah. I used to work with Noddy Holder of Slade, and he looked forward to he looked forward to April.
Especially April for Christmas money. Yeah.
Absolutely. And he was always out shopping in April. So, Owen Paul, we're going to play the song, and you're now obviously enjoying life. Where is home for you now, then?
I'm in a weird, strange place, because obviously when lockdown started, I was living in Twickenham, right?
Yeah.
And but the studio we had was in Farnham in Surrey. So when there was word going out that there was going to be a lockdown, I thought, I'm going to the studio. I'm going to stay there. So I did, and then I found a new place, and I'm around the corner from the studio. So I now live in a place called Badshot Lee. Not a bad name, eh?
Not bad at all, no. And I tell you, Farnborough, in a nice part of the world, especially with the lockdown weather that we had last year, incredible.
Gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah. So we're going to play the song, and can I just say, Owen, it's been nice talking to you. A pleasure to talk to you, as I've got to say. And good luck with the song, and good luck with the future. Have you got any tours coming up then in the 80s festivals?
Well, we've got the bookings for some, but they can cancel. They can cancel the night before. So if you go to the website, theowenpaul.com, the gigs that we've got are in there, but they still might not happen. So fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed, definitely. All right, we're going to play the song. Owen Paul, nice to talk to you.
You too, Rob. Cheers.